The edge of the divine feminine. The edge of the divine feminine. That's where we're headed today. So we are in an exploration about embracing the edge throughout this month. And today, we're going to take a look and explore the qualities of the divine feminine, including embodiment and intuition and power. And we're going to discover the edge of the divine feminine for each and every one of us and how that shows up in our spiritual expansion and growth. And I couldn't be happier to be with you today because it's kind of like, that is what women do. Like, if you get this call at 6 p.m. on a Saturday night, you know you can land it the next morning, right? Right, that is what we do. And what's beautiful about this exploration, I really want to completely honor Reverend Lezli Goodwin, of course. It is her notes and her ideas that just laid the groundwork for us this morning, and I'm very happy to be a vehicle to celebrate what she conceived of. So one of the things that's beautiful about a message that asks all of us to go on the edge is that it is an inclusive message. So all of us, including our gender expression, our sexual orientation, all of our demographics, our age or our race or our religious backgrounds, our positions or our economics, our education, all of us have access to the fullness of the divine. Therefore, access to the capacities of the divine feminine. And how we show up with them is individualized as us. So this is absolutely a message for everyone. And I invite you to bring to mind an area of your life where you know you're on that edge and you want to grow, or you want to make a bigger contribution, or you want to appreciate something, but make this personal for you. So bring something to mind, whether it's an individual call or whether it's something you're contributing to in the collective, where you want to expand. Yes? Yes. Wonderful. And this idea of spiritual inclusiveness, of course, comes right from our Science of Mind teaching. So Dr. Ernest Holmes has this beautiful quote. He says, "God is the androgynous principle, the father and mother of all." And for the folks who are new, the Science of Mind teaching is a 100-plus-year-old teaching founded by Dr. Ernest Holmes. It's a synthesis of philosophy, metaphysical, scientific principles, and the best ideas of the world's religions. And the idea that God is a principle is one of our foundational ideas. So some religious traditions have what's called a sky god, a being that is outside of human interaction, but blesses human interaction. So that's a doctrine or a theological idea. In our teaching, we believe that God is a presence, a principle, a truth, a reality that is both all around and within us. And so the all around and within us includes all capacities. So it is the capacity of the father, the masculine energy, and it is the capacity of the mother, the feminine energy. And sometimes you'll hear me pray in a way where I say, Mother, Father, God, and that's what I mean. I mean the totality of being is always present. And so how does that show up in terms of being on the edge with the divine feminine? So I love this image of like on the edge and you're stepping off. So part of the edge and stepping off is, how can I reveal more of something? And if I step off, I might feel afraid because I don't know what's there. But the divine is always there. If we step off, the way will be made clear, or we will sprout our wings and fly. So that's the kind of edge we're talking about. And so I looked at these ideas about embodiment and intuition and power with the feminine, and what came to my mind is something that kind of tender is an experience that started, almost 30 years ago and just came to an interesting conclusion. So about 30 years ago, I was new in my recovery journey. I was newly attending a Science of Mind center, the Agape Center in Los Angeles, and I could be very charitably described as a hot mess. Hot mess. So one of the things that I felt was a big presenting problem at the time, so I'm in my mid-30s, although I'd had a lot of experiences, I'd never had one beloved partner, I'd never lived with someone, I'd never been married, and I thought really my biggest problem was that I needed, a boyfriend, I needed a partner. And I was a little bit confused at the time because I felt I'd had some challenging experiences with men in the past. I had some unprocessed anger. I had a lot of masculine energy just in my personality. But then I thought maybe I should be more feminine. So I had this energy of like trying to put a pink tutu on the Incredible Hulk. So, yeah. Pink tutu, Incredible Hulk. Sort of like, ugh. And one of the beloveds, I think it was one of my friends from the Foundations class, said, I heard about this woman, Catherine Woodward Thomas. She's starting a workshop called Calling in the One, 7 Steps to Attract the Love of Your Life. And she's piloting it, and you might want to go. And so I did the research and found out that Catherine Woodward Thomas had a spiral-bound notebook called Calling in the One, and she was starting a 7-week class, but I had to schlep from Los Angeles up to Santa Barbara to go to the first workshop. So I made my way up there, pink tutu, Incredible Hulk, problem. And in the first opening circle, when it came to me, I just burst into tears. And what I realize now is I had so much baggage about who I really was and who I really am, how I felt about myself, and also a sincere, deep desire to have a partner in my life because I knew it represented something that was my growing edge. And so I gave myself completely to this teaching that I worked with her, and we're going to kind of fast forward through this. Had a lot of spiritual insights, and then when Catherine published the book, Calling in the One, there are 3 stories that are inspired by me, in the book. It's a beautiful thing for Catherine and beautiful insights for me. So I learned a couple of things. Number 1 is that apparently life is not just victimizing me by withholding love and good jobs and, events. Things are not happening to me. Apparently, life is my experience of my consciousness played outward. And this is a foundational idea of the science of mind. We are one with the whole, and our consciousness creates our experiences. And I got to feel that and experience that when it had to do with the kind of relating and relationships I had. And then the other idea, and this, of course, is a classic spiritual idea, is that her premise is that the love that we can get from another person can only be as vibrant and robust and as full as the love that we can feel and express for ourselves. That the primary indicator of our relatedness to others is our relationship with ourselves. And I think about many of you are taking the mental equivalence class with practitioner Rachel. Like, mental equivalent, the highest idea of whether it's love or prosperity or peace in the world has to begin with us up-leveling the highest idea we can have of that thing. And so those spiritual ideas became then the foundation for psychological things like forgiving the past and stop expecting other people to do things that I wasn't willing to do for myself, and all of that, and embracing myself more, and I stopped criticizing myself, and I didn't feel like life was criticizing me so much, et cetera, et cetera. And because we always like the end of the story, it was 2001. I went to a workshop up in Big Sur, and I met the big fella, and the rest is history, right? Love Bill. And pretty much I said, jump on the crazy train. And, well, it'll be 25 years this month that we've been together. So yeah. And if you know Bill, you know I got the better part of that part. Okay? Anyway, so the other part of the story is this. Catherine Woodward Thomas, she had met the love of her life, and she had this 7-step process because she had met this person, and she, had this beautiful marriage, and they'd had a child, and then she's teaching Calling in the One. It's just good you don't leave before the miracle. Is then Catherine Woodward Thomas got divorced, and she went on to write Conscious Uncoupling, because she's like, you might as well just like do it right? So she had a whole spiritual thing for how to uncouple, which you want to have as well. And that became a pretty well-known thing, and then it became a little bit of a joke because there were Hollywood celebrities consciously uncoupling, but it was actually really good work. And then she went on to do a bunch of work about feminine power, and then just a year or so ago, she began writing what became her final book, What's True About You? And she took the deepest look at the identity fractures we have and how the spiritual truth is there. And as she was writing that book, she was diagnosed with a late-stage cancer, and she just made her transition. So what was so funny is when I went last night to pick up the book, we've moved recently, so I don't have a lot of stuff in the house. But in the front of this book, and we've got it on a slide, I found this adorable picture of me and Catherine Woodward Thomas. I know. And this is actually from my wedding shower. That's the two of us together. So just so sweet. So if any of you, who here has ever read Calling in the One or knows this stuff, or there's just a few people, I highly recommend her latest book, What's True About You, is good stuff. So, we just are appreciating our teachers and the people who are there in our lives. So what I learned in the journey with Catherine goes right into the opportunity for all of us around building capacity where we didn't think we needed it. And so there's 3 areas for the feminine power that we can develop. And the first is embodiment. So feminine energy is embodied energy. And if you think about it, feminine energy is diffuse awareness. It's inclusivity. Masculine energy is single-focused, and it often is like carving the distinction. Both are valuable, both are important. And feminine energy in our spiritual practices is embodied spiritual practices. So this morning, Vernice, before the service, did a spiritual meditation where she had us feeling our heartbeat, feeling our energy, the sacred dance, yoga asanas, drawing the mandala. These are all spiritual practices that involve the body and the feeling and the senses. They're of course potent and valuable, as is silent meditation that may clear our minds in a more masculine energy way. Have you ever just known something or felt something in your gut? Or have you ever had an experience where you've been somewhere and all of a sudden your neck is all cramped up and it's telling you something? People have experienced that? Absolutely. The body knows. So one of the ways we can either develop for ourselves or appreciate the divine feminine is to really be in tune to listening to our body. One of the things that I do that's simple, but it's powerful for me, we're going to do it together, is something called kinesiology, where we know that the body has a reaction to something, and it's part of our spiritual intuition. So I do a thing where I do the fingers and thumb together to test whether something is strong or weak. So we're going to do it together. So you take your index finger and your thumb, and you put them together like this, and we're going to have you think about it. And what you're going to try to do is pull them apart, but we're going to have you think about something that's strong for you. So we'll think about a food or a clear glass of water or a food that you enjoy that's good for your body. And attempt to pull your fingers apart, and you'll see, did they test strong? Yeah, good. Avocado, yeah, okay. Shake it out. And now we're going to prove that your body has wisdom. So everybody think about a food or a drink that, maybe you still eat or drink it, but you know it's not good for you. And go ahead and put them together and see if you can pull it apart. Can you pull it apart? Yeah. Some of you are smiling. Yeah. All right. So if I'm eating corn chips at night, it's like not a mystery, not a good idea. But right there, we've proved that we have an instrument here, an expression of the divine that gives us wisdom. So listen, appreciate, tune into the body, involve it in your spiritual practice. It's not something separate from us. And you'll notice I said the word intuition. So intuition is another aspect of feminine divine expression. Intuition is really God in humanity, Dr. Holmes would say. Intuition, have you ever just known something without having to figure it out? Have you ever just had something revealed to you, just an immediate realization of something? Or even if it was counter to what everybody in the boardroom is saying this, but you just know, it's not a good idea. Have you ever had that? Yeah. So part of the question is do you trust that inner knowing? Have you acted on it? Is it available to you? Do you cultivate your relationship with it? We have a beautiful quote here. A woman's intuition is the most powerful healing force known to humanity. Woman's intuition, the most powerful healing force known to humanity. And part of the reason for showing that quote, and of course intuition's available to all of us, is that when we know something without trying to figure it out, when we know something, it might be counterintuitive to the prevailing conversation, we're trusting God. We're trusting Spirit. We're trusting that we're given a revelation. And healing is the revelation of wholeness. And healing, when it happens, sometimes happens, this is how in a prayer, you'll immediately have a sense of grace or power or truth just comes flooding through. That's the revelation of wholeness. That's healing. All right. So, welcome the body, trust the intuition, and then this third area is feminine power. And so, Reverend Lezli really wanted us to lean into this idea that there's an aspect of divine femininity, an aspect of motherhood, that is all rose petals and kittens, that is quiet and soft and receptive and pliant, and that is wonderful. It's like when we think of Mother Nature as a soft meadow in an early morning. And I think you know what's coming. There is also an aspect of the divine feminine that is fierce and powerful, that has within it the energy of saying no when no needs to be said. It's the energy of clarity that comes in about a situation where the fierceness is required. There are many, in many of the Eastern religions, there's a whole breadth of gods and goddesses that exemplify the full range of humanity. So there are goddesses that are the Kuan Yins and the Mother Mary type of energy, which is birthing and creation and unconditional love. And then there are the goddesses of Kali, which is the beginnings and endings, which is transformation and change, which is death, which is needed as a part of human and spiritual growth. Bill's mom used to say, well, she had 3 boys, and she was living in northern Florida, and they had a reputation, these 3 boys, for frightening the babysitters with not just one frog, but a snake and another thing. So they just, these, 3 boys, all similar ages, covered in snakes and frogs. And what Bill's mom used to say to them occasionally was, I brought you in, I can take you out. And of course, we don't mean that literally, but I do see the mothers here. Some of you are like, yeah, I know that vibe. that energy, that fierceness, that clarity, that knowing when something needs to stop, that standing up for what is right, and also saying, this must end, that is also an aspect of the divine feminine. And so the question there is there a place in your life, is there a place in the thing that you're contemplating where it would behoove you to speak up, to be clear, to bring in the mother energy that isn't just the meadow, but it's the tsunami that clears things out, and there may be destruction, but it's ultimately necessary for the furtherance of what we're doing. And so those three areas, the body embodiment, the intuition, and the fierceness, those are aspects of the divine feminine available to all of us. And yes, individually, you've got an invitation for how do I embody those things? How do I bring them forward? And for all of the places in the world where collective action is needed, where collective consciousness must be created, it's often the women, it's often the divine feminine that are leaders in saying, we love the children and we can't stand for families being taken apart. Or we care about all people and this beautiful planet. And so we need to protect our environment and stand for what is right. For all of you who are involved in creating a consciousness of a world that works for everyone, it is often a time to activate the divine feminine in you to care and to act in service of those that need our support, our love, our good. And so that is where we've come today. We've seen what the edge of the divine feminine is. The invitation is for you personally. Where can you adopt some of these ideas? And or where in the groups that you're in or the projects that you're doing, maybe you're holding a lot of masculine energy, but it would be good to have more feminine energy come into the space. Where can you be respectful of asking, who's got an intuition about this, as well as let's look at all the data. So be an opening to be on the edge, see where the divine feminine can lead you, and what I know is it will always lead us to more of the revelation of who we are in spirit. And so it is. Yeah. All right. Beautiful. Oh, look at this. Oh, my God. So let us take this to prayer. Oh, how good it is for us to rise up in our consciousness and to find our oneness with the divine, which is always closer than our breathing, nearer than hands and feet. We tap into that infinite loving presence of God, Father, Mother, God, Creator presence, the all in the all. Recognizing our oneness with life itself, I am so honored to hold the high truth for all the beings who are touched by the vibration of this prayer, that each is a representation of the one life of God. That is truth, that is truth, that is truth. And from that foundation, I speak a word this day. I call forward the blessings of the divine feminine to have us grow, to have us expand, to have us give and receive, to love and to share, to be and to be about more of the revelation of healing and wholeness, of right action and grace, of truth and beauty, of kindness and mercy, of abundance and freedom and joy and peace, that we are about the revelation of the truth in our individual and collective lives. This prayer is a blessing for all people, all beings. We call forward the blessings for all people, all beings. And that fullness is revealed in the divine. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful that the answer to this prayer is yes. I am so grateful that the law of mind says yes upon the word. I give great thanks. We let the prayer go, we release it, we let it be, and together we say, and so it is.